Okay, it says it is being live.
Awesome. Hello, everyone.
Good.
Welcome to another edition of Lunch Bites. I'm here today, as always, with Coach Tiffany Heath, and I'm excited for today's topic for strategies to improve self-motivation. So Coach Tiffany is going to share her thoughts with us on that topic. So without further ado, Coach Tiffany, I will turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Dana. Yeah, sometimes I feel like, oh, people are going to get sick of me always talking about motivation and willpower, but I just feel like it's such prevalent or, like topic that comes up so often. And I keep always coming back to that. So today, the four strategies to kind of improve your self-motivation, I wanted to hit these and kind of talk about four different scenarios where you might, I guess, share a couple different strategies for four different scenarios where you might need to use these strategies. So let's just start with the first one. The first one is anytime when you're like setting a new goal. This might be a chance to kind of maybe even plan, like, I don't want to say troubleshoot, but almost like you're planning ahead a little bit to help you keep that motivation or, revive that motivation while you're working on that goal as long as possible. So this is a strategy. So anytime that you're setting a new goal, especially where we have, January is going to be around the corner, everyone's setting New Year's resolutions. Here are a few questions that you might ask yourself to just really determine, to help yourself make sure that the goals that you're setting, that it will be the easiest for you to, I guess, again, stay motivated or get that motivation back when it does kind of fade. So, okay, a couple questions that you can ask yourself when you're setting these new goals, or this new goal is, first of all, ask yourself, what's important to you about achieving this goal? And this is where we can even go into the 5 whys or whatever. But I think one of the most important things that you can do ahead of time, just to kind of, again, help plan, is ask yourself, is this goal something that you really, really want? Or is it more of you're setting this goal because you think you should do it, whether that's pressure from society, other members of your family, your doctor, whatever. Is it something that you think you should do, or is it something that you really want to? And there's a big difference, because if it's something that you think that you should do, but deep down, you just really maybe it doesn't align with what's important to you or your values, chances are that motivation to reach that goal is going to fade or peter out pretty fast, especially when things get hard or you run into challenges or obstacles. So I would say that's maybe, as you're setting goals for the future, is to just really ask yourself, is this something I'm setting because I should, or is it something I really want to do? And there's a couple other things, like if you decide okay, this is something I really want to do, then it might be helpful to kind of just look ahead a little bit and see if you can come up with, the potential obstacles or other competing motivations that might get in your way. So for example, if you want to, get up every morning and exercise before you go to work or you start your day, what are competing motivations going to be? Is that competing motivation maybe, well, I want to stay up a little bit later to have that me time, so I might want to sleep in a little bit. So those are just things to kind of think about, and so you can kind of plan ahead for those when you are setting that new goal. So anything you want to add to that one?
No, I mean, I think you covered that very clearly. I love what you said about, is it something you think you should be doing, or something that you truly want to be doing. I think I can't remember who I heard the phrase from, but something like stop shoulding on yourself, like
Yes.
should.
Yes.
Um,
Uh-huh.
and I do think that that is important. And of course, I'm sure we've both talked about the 5 whys. And
Yep.
I do think that it's sometimes a struggle to get people to do this exercise. But oh my gosh,
Yes.
if they take the time to do it,
Mhm.
it's amazing how enlightening and how motivating it can be, because
Yeah.
those arbitrary goals don't necessarily mean much until you dig down further and further and further and figure out what is the true reason that you want this. So great
Yeah.
points.
Thank you. And thank you for just, yeah, sharing your thoughts on that. It's so true.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's move into scenario number 2. Let's say you've already started working on your goal or whatever, and you have that slump where you're just kind of feeling unmotivated in the moment. Everyone faces this, regardless of your goal, regardless of what's your stage in life. We all have these times where, yeah, I should go get my workout clothes on and head to the gym, but the couch looks really comfortable right now, and I just want to sit down and relax. It's been a long day. Or, when it comes to like treats or snacks late at night, and you're like, oh, I'm not really hungry, but just, having that piece of chocolate or that treat or whatever, and, watching a movie or TV or just to unwind, feels really, it's it might be hard to feel motivated in the moment to kind of pursue and stay on track with your goals. So this is where I think it can be really helpful to ask yourself and try to identify, like, what is it that you're actually feeling in the moment without saying unmotivated. Like, that's a very generalized, like, we can all say we're unmotivated, but if you can kind of be as specific as possible, maybe it's overwhelmed, maybe it's tired, maybe it's depressed or sad or super stressed out or whatever. But when you can just identify what you're feeling in the moment, kind of maybe what might be affecting that feeling of feeling unmotivated, that can be really helpful. And then taking that a step further, where again, you might identify, okay, well, if I'm not feeling motivated to, get to the gym or go on my run or choose this, this healthier option instead of the less healthier option, what would you rather do? So this can kind of help kind of tie back to identifying what you're feeling in the moment. If you're really just struggling to do what you know you should do or you're trying to do, what's what's competing with that? If you would rather stay on the couch and watch TV or read a book or something, what is that doing for you? And I guess where I want to go with that is, are there any other options that might help you feel that way? So could you even reframe that? Like, okay, well, I'm really tired right now and I just want to relax. I want to maybe have some me time watching TV, but you know what? Going to the gym or doing a workout or going on a walk or something like that could technically be my me time as well. But I think it's important to, like, if we're just so focused on we don't want to do, focus on what do you want to do in the moment? And are there any other options, whether that's, just reframing the way that you look at it, or are there any other options that, this is maybe a different spin on this. Are there any other options that might still help you lead you in the right direction that maybe aren't the workouts? So like, for example, maybe you don't have the energy or the motivation to do that 30-minute intense HIIT workout, but could you maybe do 10 minutes of something that you enjoy or whatever? But I think there's just something that can be really powerful about identifying, okay, what do I really want, or what do I want in the moment that's competing with this? And can I find a compromise, or can I find maybe other alternatives that are going to help meet that need or fulfill that emotion that I want to feel, other than the thing that maybe isn't the most helpful? Does that make sense? Did I even explain that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's that time to pause, before we take action and before we just sort of throw our hands up in the air. I think it's the opportunity to just bring more awareness to whatever
Mhm.
we are thinking and whatever we're feeling to understand, what actions, like you said, you need to take in that moment to
Yeah.
take care of those actions. So no, I think you explained that very well.
Okay. Thank you. Well, then let's move on to the third scenario. And this is more of, the last one was when you're kind of just feeling unmotivated in the moment. This one is when you're kind of in a funk. And I'm just going to define a funk as, when you're maybe not sure what your problem is, but you're not feeling motivated, or, it's been a stressful time, and it kind of lasts more than like that moment or that day. Maybe you feel like you've kind of just been feeling unmotivated, or you don't care anymore for, a few weeks or whatever. And this is where I think the first thing I'm going to ask is, sometimes it might be, again, enlightening, or to help create that awareness, like what's really going on, just to ask yourself a couple questions like, are my biological needs being met? Are they satisfied? Are my psychological needs being met? Those are going to have a direct impact in the way that we feel and what's going on in our lives. But if we want to get really specific here, there's basically 3 points that I want to talk about, like when you're in that funk, that you could ask. So ask yourself if, there are things that, do you feel in control? If not, well, let me just go through the 3 questions real quick. Are you feeling in control in the moment? Does things feel so out of control? That's going to contribute to how you're feeling. And then pull up my other notes here. The control, it was control. Do I feel supported? Or do I feel isolated? So these 3 things all can have a big impact. And so I guess to in the interest where this is a really brief summary of things, but when it comes to the things that are in our control, if you feel like there's so many things that are out of control right now, and you don't have control over a lot of those, that can lead to that feeling of stress, and maybe just, I have so much other things that I'm focusing on right now, my life feels out of control. No wonder you don't feel motivated in the moment. So I find in that case, if you're feeling like, that can be where just maybe making a list of the things that are in your control and the things that aren't, and trying to focus on the things that you actually have 100% control over, which sometimes are very few if you look at the big scheme of
Mhm.
things. But I find like making that shift to being able to focus on what we can control versus what we can't helps you kind of almost alleviate some of that. Why worry about all these other things that I can't control when I could focus and feel more empowered about focusing on like the little things that I can control? And so kind of the same thing when it goes to like, that support, or, feeling isolated. I would say, that could be another factor that, if you are constantly feeling like you're trying to maybe live your life in a way that supports these goals, but you don't feel like you have that support from friends, or, your work is competing with that, or your family, that can be really hard. So regardless of whatever it is that you kind of maybe have insight that could be contributing to this feeling of, this is why I'm in a funk, I would say, see if you can just, again, this comes back to just one small, simple thing that you can focus on that's in your control, can
Mhm.
really do wonders. When you, again, it's empowering when you can recognize like, okay, these other things may be out of my control, but if I can focus on these, this one small thing in the moment, just to help me get just a little bit closer, moving in the right direction, that can help that momentum going and help you. You may not feel like ready to take on the world, but you may be feeling motivated just enough to kind of take that next step. And I think that's really important. We kind of discount those little things that can actually, just like we can snowball out of control and downward spiral, it can also help us
Mhm.
spiral in the right direction. So
Yeah.
yeah. And
Great
then
point. Absolutely. Those spheres of control are so important, right? No
it really
control,
is.
little control, total control. And going back to what we said previously, pausing in that moment and taking a minute to think before you react.
Yes, absolutely. So the last thing or last area that I want to talk about is probably one of the most overlooked areas, but it's so important. So this is when you are feeling motivated in the moment. You know, it's so easy to always focus on what we should do, or when I'm not feeling motivated, how do I get that motivation back again? What do I need to do? That a lot of people don't even think about, well, like, what about if I were to focus when things are going well? We all know that motivation doesn't last, right? It comes and goes. It's kind of like the waves in the ocean. So what if you were to spend a few minutes again, when you are feeling motivated, and just take note of why that might be? Is that, you know, are there any tangible specific tangible things that have contributed to the way that you're feeling in the moment? If so, how might you repeat that or do a little bit more of that in the future? How might you use some of those things, or to help kind of recreate that? Like, if you can kind of plan ahead in the future, knowing that that motivation isn't going to last forever, it's going to come and go. Could you set yourself up for success by kind of taking into consideration some of the things that are leading to your success in the moment, and recreate that or do a little bit more of that? I think this is probably one of the biggest things. Another aspect of that, if things are going really good in the moment, you're feeling super pumped, you're feeling super motivated, I think it's important to also maybe ask yourself, can I sustain this? You know, because if your motivation's high and you're going full throttle, chances are you might burn out a little bit faster. So it's almost like, okay, can I like pace myself a little bit to help make this motivation last as long as possible? And just speaking from like personal experience, you know, when I struggled a lot more, you know, before in previous years with depression and some of my mental health, and I would have these phases where, you know, that motivation, it'd be hard to sometimes just get out of bed in the mornings. And then I would get these sudden bursts of energy and motivation. And so what would I do? I would try to make up for the weeks or the months that I didn't have
Yeah.
that. And I would go 110% like all the time. And then what would happen? I would get burnt out, and it would just be this vicious cycle. So I think that's something I just, you know, from personal experience, not everyone can relate to that, but when things are going really well, it's good to, I think, just check in yourself, and can you maybe find that more even keel, you know, where you're a little bit
Mhm.
more balanced and you're not going 100%, you know, 100 miles an hour all the time, and just kind of rein it in a little bit, and just to try to stay with it longer versus kind of the all or nothing mindset. But I think just kind of looking back at the times when you have been motivated, or when you are in the moment and things are going really well, that's so valuable to kind of maybe take stock on what factors are leading to that, versus always focusing on, I'm not feeling motivated, what do I need to do? You know, we can learn a lot from ourselves if we would just take some of that time to gather those insights and be present in the moment and learn. I think, you know, there's the whole saying, like, don't ever quit, keep going. And I'm just like, well, I think part of being wise, or, you know, is knowing when to quit. And we don't know when to quit or what battles to choose if we don't spend some time reflecting and assessing, okay, what's worked well for me? Can I do a little bit more of that? What's not working so well, you know? So there we go. Those are the 4 ways. But yeah, I think that last one is something that most people don't ever consider. And so that's probably my favorite one. So
Yeah, I think self-assessment is key for sure.
yeah.
I know, and I'm sure you do this in your coaching program. I do a weekly wrap up and, you know, ask people what went well, what didn't go well, what can we think about for the coming week, etc. And I know we've
Yep.
both been exposed to that in the mentor programs that we took. And I see it even in my group coaching program. We're very willing to do that in the beginning, but it's one of the
Yes.
first things I find that falls off.
Mhm.
But it's such a key. It's something that I really try to stay on, is that self-assessment. And it really only takes a couple of minutes. You could do it
Yeah.
daily, but even at the very least weekly. What went well
Mhm.
this week? What didn't go well this week? What's my goal for the coming week? And just sort of thinking like, why did this go well? If I had a great week,
Yeah.
why? What did I do maybe
Yes.
the previous weekend to set that up? What was different this week?
Yep.
So I love that. We always have to be self-assessing.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, I think sometimes it does start to maybe peter off a little bit, because if you're not used to doing that, it sometimes does take a little bit more bandwidth and energy, like mental, energy to kind of, but I think the other thing to realize is the more you do it, the easier it becomes. It's just like any
Yeah.
other skill we're learning, right? Like we have to practice.
Yes.
And for me, that was something I fought for the longest time, because I like, oh, it's just, I'm too stressed, or I'm tired or overwhelmed. I don't have time to think about that. But because it took a lot, like I didn't always, have that awareness. But the more you do it, the easier it does become. So like you said, it doesn't have to be this like long drawn out, it can just be a couple of minutes where each week, or whether that's daily or whatever, but it does become easier and easier, where I think it's almost like you do it without even like you're thinking about it. It's just part of your routine. So I just, would encourage people, if that does seem like, that just takes too much, energy or time. It's like, just like with anything else, intentional practice makes us better at it. So
Yeah.
anyways, thanks, Dana.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, thank you. I think this, hopefully this is helpful for people. I think it requires some deeper thought, but that's
does.
what we're here for as coaches. We're here to get
Yes.
you thinking about deeper things and trying different things, so that we kind of eliminate those big ups and downs. So hopefully
Exactly.
you'll all keep an open mind out there and try to put some of the things that Coach Tiffany talked about today into practice.
Thanks, Dana.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for being here. And we will see you all in 2 weeks. Happy holidays, happy new year, right? When we're back, it'll be 2023. So
I was going to say, yeah, I think so. Looking at my calendar. Yeah. So exciting times.
We'll be, exactly. So we will be back at it, and looking forward to seeing everyone then.
Yeah. Thanks, Dana.
All
Take
right.
care, everyone.
Have a great day, everyone. All right. Take care.